What should protesters do?
Well, we got to stay on the street, and we've got to get more active. We've got to get more confrontational. We've got to make sure that they know that we mean business.
Keep it 100, I be feeling like Campbell soup over white rice, baked chicken with the skin on, yeah, Lowry's with black pepper, I'm fully seasoned with laughter.
What's good, understanders? It's your boy Dre, and welcome to my channel. Keep it 100, Dre. So, Derek Chauvin, his defense, they argued that the case against him should be thrown out because of comments that Representative of California, Maxine made. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the argument by the defense for why he's saying the case should be thrown out, the argument by the prosecutor, and what the judge had to say about it. And of course, before I show all of that, I'm gonna show you Maxine Waters' comments. So take a look.
I am very hopeful, and I hope that we're going to get a verdict that is say guilty, guilty, guilty. And if we don't, we cannot go away.
And not just manslaughter, right? I mean...
Oh, no, not manslaughter. No. This is guilty for murder. I don't know whether it's in the first degree, but as far as I'm concerned, it's first degree.
Congresswoman, what happens if we do not get what you just told? What should the people do? What should protesters on the street do?
I didn't hear you.
What happens?
What should protesters do?
Well, we got to stay on the street, and we've got to get more active. We've got to get more confrontational. We've got to make sure that they know that we mean business.
With regard to other matters we have, I think there were some bench conferences that that are fairly historical that you wanted to memorialize, but also a new motion based on events this weekend. Mr. Nelson.
Correct, Your Honor. Your Honor, as the court is aware, and as prior to coming into court this morning for closing arguments, we had an in-chambers discussion about events of this weekend, specifically referencing that an elected official, United States congressperson, was making what I interpreted to be, and what I think are reasonably interpreted to be, threats against the sanctity of the jury process, threatening and intimidating a jury, demanding that if there's not a guilty verdict, that there would be further problems, Your Honor. And given the fact that this jury has not been sequestered, it has been my position all along throughout the course of this case that this jury should have been sequestered at the outset. The jury has not been continually told to stay away from only media about this case. There is a high probability that members of this jury have seen these comments, are familiar with these comments, and things that have happened throughout the course of this trial. I mean, it's unfortunate that there was another situation that occurred during the course of this trial. But obviously, Your Honor, we also, as I mentioned previously too, one of the jurors does live in the city, Brooklyn Center, as I recall.
Although I think that is the alternate we just dismissed.
I do not believe so. I
thought it was, but go ahead.
Now I'd have to go back and double check my notes. So, Your Honor, I mean, I just think that the sum total of this trial happening in such a public context, number one. Number two, while all of this, I mean, the media attention is profound. I have admittedly stayed away from 99% of it, but that has required me to stay away from all media. I mean, this case has found its way into even fictional television, Your Honor. There were I was advised of 2 television shows in the course of the past few days that specifically involve references to this particular case and the reactions of the characters in these stories to this particular case. This jury has, despite all best efforts, has been bombarded with information relevant to this case. It is impossible to stay away from it unless you literally shut off your phone, or you shut off your TV, you shut off your computer, and no such instructions have been given during the course of this trial.
Well, to be fair, the last few times I've advised them, I told them don't watch the news. Pure and simple.
Right, but if you can't even watch your favorite Thursday night television program and it comes up, I mean, this is the problem, right? And why I have felt that this jury should have been sequestered from the very beginning.
Understood.
To make that clear. And so I had moved, based on this again, for a mistrial.
Well, I'll give you that Congresswoman Waters may have given you something on appeal that may result in this whole trial being overturned. But what's the state's position?
Your Honor, the state's position, first and foremost, and this is a concern I raised at the beginning of the proceedings, well into jury selection, is that we can't allow statements like this, vague statements, to be considered a part of the record on appeal. If there's a specific statement that a specific U.S. representative made, then there needs to be some sort of formal offer of proof with the exact quotes of the exact statement or some kind of a declaration. And I'm sure Mr. Nelson can do that if he thinks that that's something that's appropriate. I don't know that this particular representative made a specified threat of violence. I don't know what the context of the statement is. I also don't know what television shows Mr. Nelson is referring to in terms of any of this. And so I just don't think that we can muddy the record with vague allegations as to things that have happened without very specific evidence that's being offered before the court. As a practical matter, through the jury selection process, the court has provided instructions, has determined whether or not there are any outside influences. The law presumes that the jury follows the judge's instructions, and the court has instructed the jury today that they're not to let any outside influences or public opinion sway their deliberation. And the law presumes that they would be capable of doing that. And so without any sort of specific offer of proof or information in the record, without any specific evidence that this particular jury was influenced in any particular way, I believe that the defendant's motion should be denied.
Yeah, you can supplement the record with whatever media reports. I'm aware of the media reports. I'm aware that Congresswoman Waters was talking specifically about this trial and about the unacceptability of anything less than a murder conviction, and talk about being confrontational, but you can submit the press articles about that. This goes back to what I've been saying from the beginning. I wish elected officials would stop talking about this case, especially in a manner that is disrespectful to the rule of law and to the judicial branch and our function. I think if they want to give their opinions, they should do so in a respectful and in a manner that is consistent with their oath to the Constitution, to respect a co-equal branch of government. Their failure to do so, I think, is abhorrent, but I don't think it has prejudiced us with additional material that would prejudice this jury. They have been told not to watch the news. I trust they are following those instructions, and that there is not in any way a prejudice to the defendant beyond the articles that we're talking specifically about the facts of this case. A congresswoman's opinion really doesn't matter a whole lot.
So essentially what the defense is arguing is that the jury should be sequestered. So for those of you who don't know what sequestered means, is that pretty much the jury should be isolated from everything, insulated, shouldn't be hearing anything about the case that's going on outside of what's being presented in the court. For one, that argument's complete nonsense, because in this day and age, it's pretty much impossible to have not seen things, especially with a case that's this high profile. It's impossible not to have seen things prior to being selected by the jury. Every single person saw when Derek Chauvin, he kept his knee on George Floyd's neck for 9 minutes and 29 seconds. Everyone saw him murder that innocent man. Everyone saw it. If you believe that he's not guilty of doing so, I want to see someone put their knee on Derek Chauvin's neck for 9 minutes and 29 seconds in the courtroom and then see if he lives. If he lives, then he should get off. But that's not going to happen. The argument that the defense makes is, well, one of the many stupid arguments is that, not in this video, but why Derek Chauvin is innocent. They say that George Floyd had drugs in his system. Not because his airway was blocked for 9 minutes and 29 seconds, but because he had drugs in his system. Makes sense. So, back to the case, I got a little off topic. The reason why they're getting so flustered or pretending that they're flustered and wanting the case thrown out is because Maxine Waters said that we've got to get more confrontational if Derek Chauvin isn't found guilty of first-degree murder or second-degree murder. I believe she said she's not sure if it's first or second-degree murder, but he should be found guilty of murder. So, I guess they don't know what confrontational means. Confrontational doesn't mean riot, loot, cause violence. Confrontational means to confront. Actually, confrontation is going to be my word of the day, so I'm going to define confrontational specifically at the end of the video. But she's not saying we should make threats to the juror. The jurors are in danger. That's the way they're trying to spin it to get the case thrown out, the defense. But that's not what's being said. It's complete BS. So the prosecutor argues that there needs to be specific evidence that this group of jurors have been influenced by outsiders, by outside comments and news and commercials, but they were already instructed not to do so prior to the case happening. And the law is to believe that they've done so unless proven otherwise. And it hasn't been proven otherwise that the jury has been influenced by any outside influence. So what the defense is trying to argue is that her words can influence the jury and cause violence and make them fear of violence and potential riots happening. And I want to say something. It's very likely if Derek Chauvin is found not guilty in this case, that there are going to be riots. And here's why I believe so. Millions of people, possibly billions of people across the world witnessed this police officer murder George Floyd. And I live in New York, and I remember in 2013 when Kimani Gray was murdered by the police and the police officer got off, there were riots in my neighborhood because I lived in the area that Kimani Gray was murdered because the police officers got off when they should not have. So the cop was found not guilty of murdering Kimani Gray, and he even won a Police Officer of the Year award the very next year after murdering Kimani Gray. And you really think there wouldn't be riots? The police officer who murdered Eric Garner, the original I Can't Breathe in the Modern Era, that police officer got off. And the only thing that happened to that police officer is he was fired and he tried to sue to get his job back. Thankfully he didn't. But he didn't go to prison for murdering Eric Garner. Despite Eric Garner, just like George Floyd, saying, "I can't breathe." Millions of people witnessed Eric Garner murdered on camera. And this happens all the time. So many black people are murdered by police officers, so people are getting fed up with it. So if a riot does happen, it's not going to be because of Maxine Waters' comments. It's going to be because criminal, crooked police officers continually get off with murdering black people. So I wasn't going to make a video about this topic until the case was decided, but there's something I had to make a video on, the nonsense that the defense is arguing. So I'm not exactly sure when the jury are going to come to a decision and decide whether or not Derek Chauvin is innocent or guilty. But we're at a crossroads right here. Colin Kaepernick took a knee because of the police brutality that's going on in this country. And he no longer has a job in the NFL because of it. Stupid people try to argue that he wasn't good enough to be in the NFL when there are many quarterbacks who are extremely terrible. Like the guy that played for the Bills, I can't remember his name. He threw like 6 passes and 4 interceptions. Colin Kaepernick led, that was a few years ago, not now. The current Bills quarterback, I heard, is pretty good. I don't watch football anymore. But there was a quarterback that threw 5 passes and 4 interceptions. They found quarterbacks who hadn't played in the NFL in many years instead of signing Colin Kaepernick that were much worse. Colin Kaepernick led the 49ers to the Super Bowl. But racists want to pretend he wasn't good enough to be in the league. That's not the case at all. The reality is he's not in the league because he took a stand against police brutality. He took a knee against police brutality. So America, pick a knee. That's all I gotta say for this video. If you like the content, like and subscribe to the channel, turn on the post notifications so you see when I post videos. But I gotta leave you with one more thing before the video is over, and that's the word of the day. The word of the day for today is confrontational. Confrontational is spelled CONFRONTATIONAL. The definition of confrontational is tending to deal with situations in an aggressive way, hostile, or argumentative. So now I will attempt to use confrontational in the sentence. Examples of people getting confrontational are people protesting, are people marching, are people disrupting traffic, holding up traffic, going on strike. Those are all examples of people being confrontational without being violent, like the defense is trying to argue. That was a terrible sentence, but hopefully I used that sentence correctly. So if you like the content, like and subscribe to the channel, turn on the post notifications so you know when I post videos in the future, and use confrontational in the sentence in the comment section below so I know you watch the video to the end. So I really appreciate you watching the video. Hope you like my sweater. 100% this. Peace.
Well, I've been stacking up. Nah, really that ain't accurate, cause I just spent my whole damn advance in the past couple months just to compensate for times we ain't have enough. Ooh.